Overnight, the wild man of politics has been re-elected and will be the 47th president of the US after having been the 45th president. Now, let's talk through what does it mean for the markets. And a little bit later, I'm going to talk you through why he is the haute couture of politics and what it actually means for us. Now, overnight, the markets jumped. So we saw there was an election and straight away the markets jumped. Does that mean that everybody in the markets loves Donald Trump? Maybe there was a pretty strong jump. But let's have a look at what happened at the previous elections of 2020 when he lost. There was a pretty solid jump. What happened in 2016 when he won? Pretty solid jump. Now, what's happening here in part is that the markets are looking forward. So yes, I do think there has been a tick up on the back of his win. But what the markets don't like is uncertainty. Even though it's only a two-horse race, nobody's really sure which way it's going to go. And we see the markets start to dip on uncertainty. When we've got the certainty of who has won, the markets tick up. So we saw that and we see that with every single election. Let's have a look at economic policy positions and implications. So corporate tax cuts. He is proposing to keep the tax rate at the moment and extend those cuts out at 21%, or the tax rate for companies at 21%, but proposing a cut to 15% in the future. It means less money in the government's pockets, more in the pockets of companies. To counteract that, potentially, there is a tariff that he's proposing across the board on anything going into the States via imports, 20% tariff across the board, unless you're China, and then you cop 60%. Those two things may actually work sort of counter to one another, lower tax rate, but where are we going to get the tax from? Other countries. Infrastructure, there is likely to be an upgrade of infrastructure, but unlikely to be funded by the government, more via incentives from the private investment markets. Immigration, he's promised to chuck a whole bunch of people out. Now, if he does deport a whole group of people, predominantly lower income earning people, what we're going to find is that US citizens are probably less likely to work for those low wages, and it means that the cost structure for everything that's brought back on shore to get around those tariffs is likely to get more expensive. He is looking to wind down the defense spend. Specifically, he's pointed out Ukraine, and the support for Ukraine may wind back and stop. Who knows if that is in aid of saving a dollar or stopping a war. Leave that one to your discretion. Energy-wise, there is due to be less regulation. There is going to be less focus on energy. It's going to be less ESG or environmental, particularly safeguards. So perhaps sort of dirtier fuel and healthcare. The focus on bringing the cost of healthcare down. Now, what are the implications, the net effects? The things that I anticipate, the things that we're looking forward to and wouldn't be surprised to see in any way, shape or form: lower taxes, higher government debt, and higher inflation. Now, that higher inflation is going to come at loggerheads with what the Federal Reserve are doing, where they're trying to cut rates. If we see higher inflation, the rates have to go up. Trump's already had a pop at Jay Powell, saying the man's got the easiest job in the government. He rolls up one day a year, says very little, and then goes home. A little bit harsh, I think. Politically at home, it's going to need some real subtlety, because we are likely to be at some point, as the wilder assertions from Trump come out, we may well be in a position where we've got to pick the US or China, our number one trading partner versus our number one security partner. Who knows? In the tradition of Taoism, I'm going to go with it could be good, it could be bad. We simply don't know. There are some wild times ahead. We've seen him make some outlandish statements, hence the haute couture piece. But what we have seen in the past is the political mechanism that runs the system in the US means that he's going to get watered down. Instead of seeing that wild stuff, the crazy outfits of haute couture, he starts off with a crazy idea and it gets watered down to somewhere where it may actually be palatable, but we're going to have to wait and see. Some crazy times ahead, but the way that we always approach these things is not to jump at shadows. It is not to forecast, predict, and make long-term predictions. We've always got to remember the framework that we use for assessing these sort of things. The first question is it important or unimportant? Now, this clearly is very important. So now we've got to look at it and say, is it knowable or unknowable? At this stage, things are unknowable, so it's a wait and see, it's a wait and watch. As things become important and knowable, we can make the changes that we need to make. If anybody's worried, if anybody's concerned, please reach out and let me know.